So lovely to be here with everybody today or this evening. We're going to start off in a seated position. So I'd like you to sit on a block or a support blanket, wherever you feel comfortable, and bring your soles of the feet together and just let the knees gently drop out to the side. I'm going to suggest if you find it uncomfortable to do that, put a bolster behind the back of the knees or a cushion or a blanket just to help to support those knees and support the hips in this position. And then you might want to rest your hands on your shins, on your knees. We don't want to be leaning forward, so maybe not towards the ankles or the toes just yet. We will lean forwards in a few moments' time, but just going to give ourselves just a little bit of time just to settle into the start of our practice. So as we always do, you might choose to allow the eyes to close. You might wish to keep your eyes open, but just with a soft and gentle gaze. Just giving yourself just a couple of moments just to begin to start to let yourself arrive in the space that you're practicing in this evening. And acknowledging to ourselves this next 75 minutes is dedicated completely to you. So however you need support from this practice, there's an opportunity for it to be provided. As we regularly do through this start of the practice, we're going to spend some time just acknowledging the different layers of ourselves. And these layers in the yoga tradition are known as our koshas. And the word kosha sometimes means sheath or layer. So it's just about identifying these different layers and just checking in with how we are, noting anything that you might need to know about yourself. So we're going to start off on the most obvious layer with the physical body. And just notice how the physical body is this evening. Whether there's areas or parts of you where your attention may immediately get drawn to. And there might be because there's areas that feel a little bit uncomfortable. There might be areas that might have a sensation that draws your attention to. Noting if there's areas or parts of you that maybe feel like they need to have a stretch or a release or some pressure put on or maybe pressure took off. And then tuning into the next layer of ourselves, which is the energetic layer. Just notice how you are feeling energetically this evening. Maybe your day's been busy or you've had a lot going on and you might be coming to this practice feeling a little bit tired, a little bit jaded. Maybe you've had quite a leisurely and easy day today and maybe you're arriving with a little bit more energy, or maybe you notice a difference between the energy of your mind and the energy of your body. The energy that might be within you and the energy that might be around you. Then we're going to move our attention to the layer of our mind. And just noticing how our mind is. Noticing if the mind is busy or quiet. focused or distracted, spacious or cluttered. Whether the mind has this opportunity to be present in this moment, or maybe it drifts into the past or leans into the future. And the next layer of yourself, I'd like you to acknowledge how you're feeling, your mood, your emotional state. Again, anything you might need to know about your mood or your emotional state in this moment. And then our final layer, the one relating to our intuitive guidance, our inner wisdom. And allowing yourself to acknowledge why you've made this effort to be at this practice, what your intentions or reasons may be. And allowing ourselves to create space for those things that we may not have considered within our thinking minds at this time. So there's things that just sometimes arise, those thoughts, those feelings, those memories, those ideas. And knowing through this practice, we have an opportunity to allow ourselves to feel calm and feel rested. And when we feel calm and we feel rested, sometimes our intuitive wisdom feels like it gets a little bit stronger or a little bit louder. So creating space within you to allow that intuitive wisdom to arrive as and when it's ready. So what I'd invite you to begin to do now is start to let your breath just slowly begin to deepen. And as your breath begins to deepen, what I'd like you to do is take your hands around the back of your knees, just bring your legs gently together. We're going to slide the legs away from ourselves. And it may well be that you want to stay sitting on a block, or you might find you want to come off of the block. But what we're going to do is start to lean forward. So we're going to come into a forward fold, whereby we allow ourselves just to hinge or round the back in whatever way feels appropriate to you. So you might find you want to pop something underneath the back of the knees. Maybe you need to have a little bit more support for the back of the legs, particularly if you're maybe feeling a bit tight through the lower back or through the hamstrings. Just pop in a blanket or a bolster or maybe a rolled up cushion underneath the legs can just take a little bit of pressure off. You may wish to allow your chin to almost fall in towards where the collarbones are. And as you begin to let the body just kind of give way to gravity and give way to this folding inwards shape that we're making. You might find yourself coming across areas where there's some resistance, there's some tightness. There might be areas that you didn't even realize were feeling a little bit overused, or areas that may feel this sensation that you want to work through or away from. Now, if holding your legs or the floor doesn't feel right for you, you might choose to use your hands to rest your head in. So you could just rest your elbows on your knees, or you might be using a support under the legs, or you might even want to put something over the legs to bring the elbows onto. But it can feel quite nice to support the head here, and just to let the effort of our day and all of the kind of thoughts that have passed through our head to feel like they're being held at this moment. Holding the weight of the head and letting go of all of that stuff. Noting how your breath is in this first position. And maybe observing how the breath is coming and going. So whether it feels easy or laboured, maybe the breath feels fast or slow. And maybe you can allow yourself to just very gently elongate the length of the in-breath and the length of the out-breath. We just give ourselves another few moments in this seated forward fold. And then when you feel ready, I'd like you to just gently begin to push yourself away from the legs. And very, very gradually just begin to bring yourself into a more upright position. So the next couple of positions that we're going to do this evening, we're going to use a bolster. So if you haven't got a bolster, maybe at home, and you're watching this at home, you might want to use some rolled up towels or a couple of sort of rolled up cushions that you could utilize as a bolster. So I'd like you to bring your bolster and place it right across the center of your mat. I then encourage you to sit at the bottom end of your mat. And then what you're going to do is just bring your legs So you're going to bring your knees together. So you're in almost like a sort of fetal type position. And then your bolster wants to kind of be above your hip. So we don't want it right against the hip bone. You kind of want it so just as though it's going to catch the sort of lower rib area. And then what we're going to do is lie over the bolster. We're going to stretch the hand that's closest to the floor along the floor. Rest your head upon that arm and then take the other arm overhead. So essentially what we're doing here is just gently beginning to stretch through the side body. Now, if you find it uncomfortable, maybe resting your head on your upper arm, you could always put a blanket underneath your head instead and just move the arms slightly out of the way. For some people, they don't want to lie on their arms just because maybe there's injuries to the arms or injuries to the shoulders. But essentially what we're starting to do is just work through the side body. So we're working through the rib cage on both sides of the body. So one side is getting that gentle compression by the body resting on the bolster. The other side that is exposed towards the ceiling, there's a little bit more of kind of movement and ability for it to be able to move as you breathe in and as you breathe out. So we haven't got to keep our legs in this fetal position. What some of you might want to do is just stretch one leg or maybe even both legs away from you. But that could be just a personal preference on what feels right for you in this moment. So the reason behind our yin practice is one to calm and soothe our nervous systems, but also to work with the deep connective tissue within the body. And the sides of the body, particularly the area around the kind of waist, the side ribs, the under armpit area, can be areas that we don't necessarily associate with feeling particularly tight. But actually, when we come into some of these shapes, we realize kind of how immobile or inflexible our body is sometimes. So these side stretches are really great things to do because we're working on the areas that are kind of connecting to some of the major areas of the body. So the lower back, the hip joints, the shoulders, and working with the area around or working with the connective tissue around those areas can help to release tension in those areas. So the arm that you took over the top of your head, I want you to just gently bring it back down and either rest it by your side or bring it onto the bolster. And then push your hand into the floor or into the bolster and very, very gently just begin to lift yourself up and away. So you might want to come up onto your elbow. I would suggest just take a few moments there just to kind of recover. We've actually been in a very slight inversion as well because we've had our head below our heart. So for some people, you might just have a little bit of dizziness or disorientation. And then when you feel ready, what I'd like you to do is just turn yourself over. So you're going to repeat the same thing, but on the opposite side. So start off with your knees in a fetal position or kind of tucked up relatively close towards the bolster. Try not to have the bolster right against the hip. So you're just going to have a little bit of space. So the bolster's more supporting just above the waist and across the side of the ribs. And then you stretch your arm along the mat. Head comes onto that arm if that feels okay. And then you might want to take the other arm over the top. With all of these positions, you might find you need to do a little bit of adjusting or shifting or moving to begin. Just allowing yourself to find a place that feels comfortable for you. Sometimes you might find you need to roll a little bit, maybe forwards or backwards a little bit, just to kind of find a place on the bolster that might feel comfortable. Again, you may choose to allow your legs or one leg, both legs, to just gently straighten. You might find this accentuates the sensation of stretch across the side body. Maybe it feels better to keep those knees more bent. Again, just maybe noticing if one side of the torso might feel a little bit tighter than the other side. Maybe there's more sensations in one side of the body than the other. With each breath, it's almost as though we're just allowing a little bit more of a sense of that connective tissue, the skin, the muscles, the ligaments, to just soften that little bit more. So when you feel ready, we're going to bring both of the knees back together. The arm that's above us, we're just going to bring it back so we can push into the floor or into the bolster. And then again, just gently pushing yourself up, really taking your time. Pausing on your side just for a few moments, just to kind of let yourself just connect with how you're feeling. And then when you feel ready, we're going to push ourselves up. We're going to use the bolster, as I say, for just another couple of positions. So what I want you to do this time is push the bolster forward, so it's more towards the top end of your mat. We're then going to use our elbows to rest upon the bolster, and we're going to interlace our hands together and bring them around the back of the head. So we're going to be on our knees. So if you do need to put a little bit of padding underneath your knees, you might well want to do that now. And then we're going to come forwards with our elbows. We're going to bring our hands around the back of the head and just kind of let yourself you might find your top of head or forehead might rest either on the bolster, or you might just rest it upon the floor, and the crown of the head might be just leaning against the bolster slightly. But what we're doing here is we're working into the upper part of the back. So we're working into the connective tissue between the shoulder blades, the area leading up to the neck, the under armpit area, and also the area across the front of the collarbones and the upper part of the chest or pectoral area. Again, you don't need to interlace the hands. If you just want to kind of let the hands just sort of flop over the bolster, that's a little bit less intense. Some of you might find that interlacing your hands and almost drawing the hands towards the skull will intensify the stretch. We're also working here with the area around the upper arm, so the bicep area, the deltoids, the front of the shoulders. So essentially we're doing an upper back stretch. The temptation sometimes can be to want to take the bottom back towards the heels. But what I would suggest might be a nice thing to do here is maybe tuck your toes under and just gently stretch through the balls of the feet. So we're working the connective tissue of the upper body and the lower body simultaneously. So when you feel like you've had enough, push into those elbows, and I want you to just gently bring yourself up. We're going to bring our big toes together, take our knees wide, and then bring your bolster in front of you. I want you to hug the bolster. So you're going to bring your hands underneath the bolster or the cushions, the pillows that you're using, and then just turn your head towards one direction. And you're just gently sort of hugging that pillow and letting your body just rest along the length of the pillow. So where we've just done all that hard work with our shoulders, our upper back, just letting those arms, shoulders, upper back, just gently relax into the bolster. So you're almost kind of giving up the weight of the body into that bolster. It might be if the weight of the body is feeling a bit heavy on the wrists or the hands, and you want to maybe move the hands out on that hug for a little while, and just let the bolster rest on the floor and bring the hands by the sides of the bolster, you could do. I'm going to invite you to turn your head in the opposite direction. And it might well be this time that actually where the head feels supported by the bolster, you might want to slide the hands down and bring them down by your feet. So by doing this, we've just got a slightly different sensation towards, again, the upper back, the way that the arms are moving, or the way that the arms are sort of been moved. So we've got more of a inward rotation of our shoulders rather than reaching towards the front of the bolster, is more of an outward rotation. Again, allowing gravity, the weight of our bodies just be supported by the bolster, by the floor. So again, when you feel ready, you might just want to slide your hands either side to the bolster and just gently push yourself up, just really taking your time. You might just find you want to do a little bit of movement through the spine. You might want to move the head. You might want to come up into a 4-point kneeling position and just kind of move through the spine. Just being quite free with the movement and just kind of almost being sort of guided by what instinctively feels the right thing to be doing with your body at this time. So when you feel ready, I'd like you to move your bolster out of the way, just pop it to one side. We're actually going to come and lie upon our backs now. And we're going to use the bolster to support us in a back bend. So you're going to come and lie on your back. Bend your knees and place your feet upon the floor. And I want you to just take a moment just to kind of let the lower back, the pelvis, back of the pelvis, maybe have a little wiggle of the pelvis into the floor, just kind of feeling the earth into that lower back region. Have the arms just resting down by your side just for a moment or two here, just to kind of feel the earth through the arms, through the hands. Checking the chin is slightly down, so the back of the neck feels a bit longer. And then all I'd like you to do is gently push your feet into the floor and just lift your hips up towards the ceiling. So we're coming into an unsupported bridge position, which is a back bend. In a moment, we're going to put our bolster underneath there, but I want you to just lift up and then lower yourself back down just to notice how that feels. If you need to move the feet a little bit out and away from you, if you need to bring the feet a bit closer, do. But then what we're going to do is lift the hips back up. And again, you can adjust the feet once you put the bolster in, but we're going to slide the bolster so it's supporting across the lumbar spine. So we don't want to be supporting our bottom. We want to be supporting just above our bottom. So across the back of the pelvis, and the lower part of the spine. Equally, we don't want the bolster too high up, so it's supporting more like the back of the rib cage or underneath the chest. So once we're here, what I'd invite you to now do is maybe just see how it feels to walk the feet forward, walk them back. You might want to walk them a bit wider or a bit narrower, but you just want to find a place where the feet feel comfortable, the lower back doesn't feel like it's under too much stress or strain. If you even need to lift the hips up and place them back down again, or maybe move the bolster in or out a little bit. And if the bolster feels too high, you can always go for a couple of blocks or a block and a couple of blankets or cushions just to soften the edges. And then I'd like you to rest your arms back down by your sides, but just take them a little bit wider. So your hands might be sort of either side of the bolster. So again, we've got this slight sort of outward rotation of our shoulders. And because the body is above the shoulder area, above the head area, again, we're just gently stretching across that front of the chest area, but not too much. You might not even feel that you're really doing that much there, but just by being in this position, it helps to take us out of some of the more conditioned positions that we tend to come into. So this position is an inversion, so our heart is higher than our head. And I want you to just maybe think about focusing the breath towards the lower part of your navel area. Just allowing the breath to gently be directed into that area. Just coming and going quite naturally. As I say, this position is a back bend, so we're working more into the lower part of the back, the lumbar spine, whereas the previous back bend we did with the elbows resting on the bolster was more of an upper back bend. Sometimes we can feel a little bit of sensation, or sometimes we can get a sort of dull ache, particularly around the back area. That might be that you just need to sort of shift a little bit, or just move the bottom or move the bolster slightly, just to kind of support yourself in a slightly different way. We don't want any of those dull aches to become pain related. And just to slightly change up what we're doing here, I'd like you to bring your right leg all the way up towards your body. You're going to see if you can bring your hands around your right shin or the back of your right thigh. And then what you might want to do is stretch your left leg away from you. So we're just working a little bit more into the hip flexor of that left thigh, working into that right thigh and glute as well. And just by having the hips slightly elevated in this position could just kind of add a different dimension, a different experience, maybe a way of stretching the body that we wouldn't necessarily think to do. But all the while, this sensation is hopefully not too strong in the body. If we notice anything that feels too strong or too jarring, that feels too much, that we allow ourselves to back out or back away. So when you feel ready, I'm going to invite you just to swap the legs over. You might bring both the knees in, or you might stretch both the legs away. We're just swapping over, so you're holding your left leg, stretching your right leg away from you now. Again, you might notice a difference, maybe towards the hip flexor of this side compared to the other side. One leg or one thigh might feel a little bit tighter than the other. And then when you feel ready, we're going to bring both of our feet back onto the floor, so back to where they started. Give ourselves just a moment to adjust again. And then when you are ready, you're going to lift the hips off of that support and slide the bolster out of the way. So just push it towards the side. And then when you feel ready, we're going to lower ourselves down. We have been in that position for a little bit of time, so you might find the back feels a little bit unusual. You might find actually the most useful thing to do here would be to maybe hug your knees in towards yourself and have a little rock across the back from side to side. So where we've been in that back bend, we're now bringing ourselves back into more of a forward type bend. And this can help to just sort of reset the pelvis. Brilliant. And then we're going to bring feet back onto the floor. I'd like you to cross your right thigh over your left thigh. Now, some of you might be able to take your right foot and hook it behind the back of your left calf or left ankle. Not really something my body can do. So you can imagine what's happening there. You're sort of getting the legs twisted. We're then going to let both of the legs draw over towards the left-hand side. And then we're going to stretch the arms out at chest height and turn our head so it's facing towards the right-hand side. So effectively what we're doing is we're twisting from the legs all the way up to the top of the head. And in Yin, this practice is called the twisted roots. It kind of makes sense what we're doing here, as though the legs are our roots. Really excellent position to help work, again, with this connective tissue along the side body and diagonally across the body. If you think quite often about, we tend to move in quite lateral ways, don't we? We tend to move forwards or backwards, up and down. We don't tend to twist ourselves around. So these twists can be really, really beneficial. If you find you need to put something underneath the legs on the left-hand side, please do pop a bolster or a blanket or cushion. You might find something soft. Just helps to take a little bit of pressure off of the body as we come into this twisted position. And when you feel ready, firstly, just draw the head back to the center if you rolled it. And then I'm going to suggest uncross the legs. And then just gently, just begin to roll yourself back to the center. You might find you want to do a full body stretch. So you might want to stretch your arms over the head, stretch your legs away. Again, you might be more inclined to want to hug the legs in and kind of huddle up into a little ball. You might even want to need to do a little bit of rocking or moving across the mat. And when you feel ready, we're going to come into that twisted roots position on the opposite side. So we start off with our feet on the floor. We're going to cross our left thigh over our right thigh and then hook your left leg potentially underneath the back of your lower right leg. So again, if you was able to do that on one side, then maybe suggest to do it on the other side. And then start to let your knees just roll over towards the right hand side and then stretching the arms out roughly at chest height and turning the head in the opposite way to the way that the legs are going. So head is looking out towards the left hand side. So just allowing ourselves this opportunity here to again work across some of the sort of diagonals across the body, working with that connective tissue across the front of the abdomen, all the way around the hip area, all the way up into the ribs, into the shoulders, into the neck, all the way up into the skull. So whenever you feel ready and appropriate, just begin to gently allow yourself to unwind, coming out of this twisted roots. And again, you might find you need to release that twist by stretching, by hugging, by moving the body in different ways. Maybe it's an energetic release, like a yawn or a sigh that happens. Maybe it's more on a kind of physical base. And then when you feel ready, I'd like you to start to prepare yourself for your relaxation. So you need to make sure that you're going to be warm, that you're going to be comfortable. If you are in the studio and you'd like any additional blankets or covers, please do let me know. If you're at home and maybe you'd prefer to move from the floor to somewhere that's a little bit more comfortable for you to rest upon, then I would encourage you to do that as well. But make sure you're going to be comfortable. There's the least amount of effort involved in whatever position it is that you are choosing to rest upon. So I'm going to invite you just to spend a little bit of time just to let yourself just to get comfortable, moving the body in whatever way you need to move it, supporting the body in whatever way feels best for you. So it might be lying on your back isn't a comfortable position for you. So you may prefer to lie on your side rather than lying on your back. It might be that you prefer to sit rather than lie. So know all of those options are available to you should you require them. I'd invite you to become aware of the sensation of your breath. And just observing your breath as it comes and as it goes. And for the next few moments, as you breathe out, what I would invite you to do is allow tension or tightness in your body just gently fall away with each exhalation. So you might find exhaling audibly helps to release tension out of the body. Just letting go with each exhalation. I'd then like you to allow your breath to return back to a natural state for itself. So you haven't got to force the breath or direct it in any special or clever way. Just allow your breath to be however it is at this time. I'd like you to acknowledge the surface that you're resting upon. Acknowledging the earth that is beneath that surface that you're resting upon. And know that in this moment, whatever we have brought into this practice with us, the earth is able to hold it for us. So knowing you can let go of all of the things that you've brought in your mind, in your body, in your nervous system. Know that it's okay to put them down for a little bit of time. So the next thing I'd like you to do is imagine around you there is a circle of protection. And the circle of protection that's around you can be made up of any material, can be made up of any matter that you'd like it to be. Some people's circle of protection might be made of light. It might be your favorite color. They might be made of plants or flowers or trees. It might be made of stone or brick. It might be made of mud, of water, of fire, of metal, creating that circle of protection all the way around you. And on the outside of that circle of protection, you are going to continue to allow life to just get on and do what it does. So you might hear sounds, you'll hear my voice. There'll be things happening in the building that you're in, things happening outside the building. And we're creating a boundary between all of those things that are happening, our circle of protection, and then the space within that circle of protection that is ours. So within that circle of protection, you will hear your own sounds. You'll be aware of yourself within that circle of protection. But there's a boundary between the outside and the circle that you've created within. Imagine this circle being a safe haven for yourself. A place, again, where you can let go. A place where you can rest. And a place where right in this moment, there is nothing else you need to be doing. There's no deadlines to meet. There's nothing to strive for. There's nowhere else you need to be, because right now you are in exactly the right place. So the next part of our practice is going to involve a rotation of your awareness around your body. So what you may wish to do is just allow your attention to move to each part of the body as it's mentioned. But what you might not want to do is move your body. So you might just let your mind just drift to each part and maybe even invite it to feel at ease or welcomed into an opportunity to relax. So we're going to start off our journey at the back of your head. Relax in the back of your head. And then bring the attention to the top of your head. Relax in the top of your head. And then bring your attention to your forehead. Relax in your forehead. Being aware of both of your eyes and relaxing both of your eyes. Being aware of both your ears, relaxing both your ears. Awareness and relaxing both of your cheeks. And awareness of your nose. Relaxing the flow of the breath entering and leaving both of your nostrils. Have an awareness of your mouth. Relaxing your lips, your gums, your teeth. An awareness of your tongue. And relaxing the tip of the tongue, the root of the tongue. An awareness of your throat and neck. Relaxing the throat and the neck. Drawing your attention to both of your shoulders and relaxing the slopes of your shoulders. An awareness of your arms and relaxing your upper arms Relaxing your elbow joints, relaxing your lower arms, relaxing your wrists. Drawing your awareness to the hands and all of your fingers. Relaxing the palms of the hand and the backs of the hand. Relaxing both of your thumbs, your first fingers, second fingers, third fingers, and your little fingers. I'd then like you to draw your attentions from the thumb and the fingers all the way back up to the slopes of your shoulders. Have an awareness of the upper part of your torso. So relaxing through the collarbones, the front of the chest or breast area, relaxing the under armpits, relaxing the shoulder blades and the upper part of your back. Then having an awareness of your rib cage, relaxing the back of your ribs, the sides of the ribs, the front of the ribs. Then have an awareness of the lower part of your torso. So relaxing your upper abdomen, the navel region, the lower abdomen. Relaxing both sides of the waist, the lower back. Then having an awareness of the very base of the torso. And relaxing both of the buttocks, the hip joints, the back of the pelvis, relaxing the pelvic bowl. Having an awareness of both of your legs. Relaxing the upper thighs, both of the knees, relaxing the lower legs, and awareness of your ankles and your heels. Relaxing the soles of the feet, the tops of the feet, your big toes, second toes, third toes, fourth toes, your little toes. Have an awareness of the whole of your body and allow the whole of your body to relax. Draw your awareness to the circle of protection that you're resting within. And allow that circle of protection to be filled with all of the different things that will support and nourish you at this time. Maybe that circle of protection is filled with love. Maybe it's filled with light. Maybe it's filled with calmness or peace. Maybe it's filled with inspiration, with joy. Allow that circle of protection to be filled with whatever intuitively feels the right thing for you at this time. Could be a whole host of things. Or maybe if you're not sure, just fill it with love. And then what I'd like you to do is, using your breath, you're going to breathe in what you need from that circle of protection and breathe out into that circle of protection. As though you're recharging the body, recharging the mind, allowing every connective tissue, cell, fibre, organ, muscle, bone and bits of space and liquids in between are completely encased, completely surrounded by those things that are supporting, nourishing, or guiding you. And then what I'd invite you to begin to allow yourself to do is once more just be aware of the goings on outside of your circle of protection. So again, you might be able to hear things happening in the building or outside of the building. You might just sense the different temperatures that you can feel against your skin. You may be aware of the floor that's beneath you and what's supporting and upholding you at this time. I'd like you to allow your breath to slowly start to bring yourself out of that rested state and begin to allow yourself just to become a little bit more aware of your surroundings. You might find you just want to move your tongue around in your mouth. You might want to roll your head lightly across the support that's beneath it. You might want to gently begin to wiggle your fingers or your toes and just maybe allowing a little bit of movement, sensations back into the body. You might find just naturally a yawn or some stretches or some sighs start to happen. And just begin to allow yourself to just move very slowly, you might want to roll over onto one side and just pause on your side just for a moment or two, just to give yourself just a little bit of time. And whenever you feel it's an appropriate time to move, you might want to just bring yourself up into a seat that feels comfortable for you. Again, you might choose to lean against something, you might want to sit upon something. Just giving yourself a little bit of time just to kind of let the body settle in this new position. And then when you feel ready, just gently join the hands together into Amanjali Mudra. So you're just lightly pushing the left and the right hand together. As you bring the hands together, just be aware of that sense of connection between the hands, that sense of stability and groundedness that we were taking from the earth and the practice before, and now we're feeling between our hands. Bow your head towards the hands and take this time to acknowledge the practice that you've given to yourself this evening, the care and the attention that you've shown to yourself, but also to each other who have shared this experience with you. And as you step away from your mat this evening and go back into the life that you are currently living, try to take with you something from this practice that can continue to support, nourish, or guide you. Om Shanti. Thank you ever so much. Really nice to be here with you both, and lovely to be here with you as well, Mary. And for those that are watching this a little bit later, thanks so much for being here as well. See you all very soon.